very powerful short film that we just witnessed. And just to give us a little bit more of a background on what we just watched here on the screen. So the film is called The Partian. So it's almost like The Martian, but The Partian. It was released in 2021. It is an Indonesian experimental short film made by Hadafi Raihan Karim, and it has actually been nominated for this year's RWI Asia Pacific Award. So truly an exemplary example of how technology, the media, and the arts can be used to educate people about the climate crisis and inspire action as well through education, training, and other aspects of ACE. And so that was quite a way to start the session. So now we would like to ask Ramchat Wachiraratanakornkul from the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights in Southeast Asia to deliver her message about putting human rights at the heart of climate action through ACE. So Ramchat, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, and happy ACE Day, everyone. Today is the Action for Climate Empowerment Day, and on behalf of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Office, I am very thankful for the organizer, Raoul Wallenberg Institute, for having us joining this really important discussion. In the past week, I have been following many negotiations, but one of the topics I closely follow up is the Action for Climate Empowerment negotiations. Not think about us without us. This is the quote I heard many times, and it has been quoted again by the youth representative in that negotiation room. It's very surprisingly that one of the most contentious issues on that Action for Climate Empowerment negotiations is whether we should keep human rights in the adopt text. And it's really surprisingly because Action for Climate Empowerment is human rights. A lot of human rights issues, access to information, the right to participation, education is the heart of Action for Climate Empowerment. A lot of representative constituencies has been engaged in the negotiations. And finally, we have the very good outcomes for our action plan to move Action for Climate Empowerment forward. And I would like to share the outcome which is really important for everyone. I will read now. It has been adopted only this Saturday. For Action for Climate Empowerment, one of the output is to identifying good practice for integrating the Action for Climate Empowerment elements into national climate change policy plans, strategies, and actions, including the considerations reflected in the 11th preambular paragraph of the Paris Agreement, which acknowledge that climate change is the common concern of humankind. States and parties should, when taking action for address climate change, respect, promote, and consider their respective obligations on human rights, the right to health, the right of indigenous peoples, local communities, migrants, children, persons with disabilities, and people in vulnerable situations in the right to development, as well as gender equality, empowerment of women, and intergenerational equity in the context of Action for Climate Empowerment, and reporting thereon in the annual summary report under the Glasgow Work Programme. The question we have to discuss today, I think, is how to translate these action plan into the regional and national action plan. So I am looking at my fellow panelists now, but the last work I would like to deliver is that only transparency, inclusive, and participatory approach to climate action is the only way to build trust among affected people by climate change and policy makers. So I will close my first statement here and I will follow up the conversation today.
So thank you again, Ramchat, for your message for the session. So she mentioned about the need to translate the action plan, right, from the regional to the national level, and that's a perfect segue as we now would hear some examples about these translations towards more localized climate action under the paradigm of ACE. So we have here, as part of our panel today, the national ACE focal point for Thailand. She's from the Department of Environmental Quality Promotion. We would like to hear now from Fairda Malem.
Hello everyone, my name is Freda Malem. I'm working with the Department of Environmental Quality Promotion under the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment. And as you said that I'm the ACE focal point for Thailand, and I heard from Ms. Ramchat that we would like to have the policy to implementation, what we doing. So I would like to share the case in Thailand. Because of ACE, we're focusing on the 6 elements. So in Thailand, we have initiated lots of programs, especially for youth. For example, before we came, in October, just before we came, we have finished the youth program on youth leader capacity building. And before that, a month before, in August, we have first Thailand Climate Action Conference, and which is the first time of Thailand, and we have youth engagement in that program, in which we have like a board exhibition and also panel for youth to discuss about what we're going to do in Thailand. Okay. And also right now we have some kind of like engage youth to do the policy engagement, and they are doing that. And this term, COP27, we have 3 youth delegations to join in COP27. This is one of our good action, and we have one here, and we hope that in this platform we will have collaboration with other countries to do more and make more effective. And I think this is for all of us, for our planet. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Farida. And she highlighted definitely the importance of collaboration and networking, especially in regions around the world, to be able to really advance the agenda for ACE. And sessions like this definitely help in sharing of best practices and opens more opportunities for collaboration among stakeholders. And now we would like to hear from certain youth advocates in relation to our topic for today. And as we have on the screen, our first speaker joining us via online is from the ASEAN Youth Forum in Indonesia, Rosalind Ratana. So Rosalind, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for allowing me to join you here today, even though I'm joining online. So let me first introduce myself. My name is Rosa. I'm from Indonesia, and I'm currently serving as the advocacy officer at ASEAN Youth Forum. And we are a regional organization that champion youth voices and rights, among others, on the right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment. And so I'm very happy with the team today, in putting human rights at the heart of climate action through ACE. And as we know, the right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment has only been recently, universally recognized back in July. And I'm not sure why it has taken, so long for our leaders to do so, but I'm glad they're finally coming to their senses. So I guess, from working with my youth peers in Southeast Asia, I have been able to understand, taking a stand for climate action is unfortunately, I guess, something that only those in privileged positions can do. And I'm not talking just about economic privilege, but also about privilege of information, privilege with means of channeling participation, and also privilege of taking environmentally friendly action. And I think this is where I can draw the line, red line between like what ACE is doing and the incorporation of human rights that Romcha has mentioned earlier. So, you know, like within ACE, I know that there are 6 elements that like showcase how to empower all members of society to engage in climate action. And, you know, for me, the key word is all, like all members of society, right? So, like coming back to the elements, like I would really like to emphasize 3 elements, which is very much at the heart of what we do. I mean, what I do anyway, and I think what we all want to kind of stress in terms of youth engagement is that, so for the first one is on education. And, you know, for it to really serve its purpose and at the same time fulfill the human rights of people, it needs to be accessible to all members of society. And I think this means going above and beyond the school system, because the reality is around the world, about 250 million youth and children are out of school. So, you know, like, so the question is, how can ACE reach out to these children and youth who needs not only to receive climate action education, but also general education first, you know, to aid them in their development as a member of society. And to do this, it also means to tackle the issue of right to education, right? And also on the element of public awareness, you know, for the general population, especially those like in the previous generation, I'm talking about before the Gen Zs and the millennials, you know, like climate action and environmental, you know, related issues was probably not systematically taught within schools or communities, or even is a trend, you know, like how it is now. So the habit of overconsumption, overproduction, and polluting, you know, was very much pushed forward into the society back then. So in the sense, there are things that needs to be unlearned, right, by the public, and, you know, specifically the previous generation, which is, you know, everything that is not sustainable from our planet. Because from what I'm seeing is that the youth, you know, I mean, not the youth, but the generation of like my parents, uncles, or even like older cousins, like they're not feeling the climate anxiety that I feel and maybe my peers feel, because they didn't grow up being aware or even being pushed to care, you know, about the consequences of their lifestyles and spending habits, which can then continue on the cycle of, you know, like market demands, like for items and modes of transportation and food products, which does not factor in sustainability at all. And, you know, finally, on public participation, our organization actually recently, together with the Royal Lombrick Institute, recently held workshops on youth participation in climate adaptation plans. And we heard so much great insights from the youth participants. And what was constant is that for participation to be meaningful, there must be a safe space to do so. And the participation or engagement can never be just one-off. Like, it must be systematically done right from the beginning. So I'm talking about from the planning, implementing, and monitoring. And I'm really glad that Farida mentioned that the Thailand, within the Thailand ACE program, like she has initiated the engagement with youth relating to like policy creation. So perhaps this could also be applied on that front. And also to stress that this could not be done with like a monolithic youth group. You know, there must be a diverse representation of people from, you know, different identities and also age groups. And this is also loaded with like several human rights issues where typically, you know, minority groups are excluded due to their economic status, religion or belief, gender expression, identity, sexual orientation, ethnicity, and etc. So this is definitely what needs to be challenged, because we all know climate change related disasters does not discriminate, right? But they will more likely, you know, negatively impact those with heightened vulnerability. And this is usually due to their geographic location or poor living conditions. So like to do this, you know, from our youth recommendations recently, like the first step that can be done is through recognition of these groups as equitable partners, and to really place an emphasis on the value of their participation to solve this wicked problem together. So as Ramchad mentioned earlier, the quote, nothing about us without us, that is also something that has been really voiced out by our youth. So I completely agree with that. But yeah, I think that's what I would like to share first for my time. I'm sorry if that was a little bit long. So thank you so much, moderator, for providing me this space.
All right. Hello. Okay. Thank you very much, Rosa, for your wonderful speech here. And she really highlighted, what does that always happen? She really highlighted the diversity of areas and issues that ACE really covers. And when developing strategies, especially incorporating human rights at the heart of education, public awareness, raising, training, among other aspects of ACE, these particular interlinkages need to be emphasized and kept in mind, as well as, of course, inclusive participation of all stakeholders. And now I would like to give the floor to our next panelist. Let me just get my notes so I don't mispronounce your name. Saher Baig from Pakistan, from the Stockholm Plus 50 Youth Task Force. So you have the floor.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming in this room and willing to hear about ACE and the youth inputs from ACE, basically. But before I start my intervention, I just want to highlight everything that has been said before. Young people and children really are a beating heart of ACE, and without us, any decision made on ACE cannot be a complete decision. So it's really important that young people and children are identified as, equal stakeholders and in all the 6 ACE elements. Well, this COP was not a bad COP in terms of ACE decisions focused on children and young people. And I would like to highlight some of the decisions that have been taken under ACE this time, which are benefiting children and young people. So I would like to read them, just in case I'm not addressing anything wrong. So in terms of children's education and empowerment, the Secretariat, along with contributing organizations and good practices with respect to children's education and empowerment in climate action, with special consideration given to gender equality and inclusion of people with disabilities, to be included in the annual summary report under the Glasgow Work Programme, which was actually the outcome of COP26. And then in terms of human rights and taking children and youth into account, under the activity A.2, it's mentioned that strengthening integration of ACE into the development and implementation of national climate policies, plans, strategies, and action. The Secretariat is instructed to identify good practices for integrating ACE elements into national climate change policies, plans, and strategies. I think that this is also something that Frida mentioned previously as well. So it will be, we will be really looking forward to what is done at the national level as well to include children and young people meaningfully in this. And then one of the most important points that we hear all the time in the negotiating rooms is involvement of children and youth in efforts to promote development of regional and local networks and platforms to support implementation of ACE activities at all levels and providing capacity building in this regard. Now, this might seem technical, and I understand it, but it was really important for you all to know about it, and I tell you why. Because all of these decisions that are mentioning children and young people are not just a fruit of one-day advocacy, and the world leaders did not just, walk into COP27 and thought, yes, we will be all human rights, climate change, and youth-friendly and children-friendly. This took advocacy from every single child and young person through many, many years. Last year at COP26, the human rights language was watered down, and children and young people were only mentioned under ACE and human rights in the cover decision, not inside the negotiations text. So this is an achievement, and I really want you all to clap for every single young person and child who advocated for it. So what does this mean is that including these languages on human rights, climate change, in context to children and young people, give them not only the advocacy tools, but also a way forward to be the key stakeholders getting benefits and being in the heart of the climate policies that are being made for them. I think that my fellow speaker really well highlighted through the 6 elements on, especially right to a healthy environment as well, why children, young people are important, for example, to be included in these policies. I really want to talk about climate education here and some of the good practices as well. Integrating the climate education into curricula, I think that on the Youth Day, we all have been hearing a lot about it at different pavilions, but how young people are not only doing it, not only getting the benefits from it, but also, leading the way forward. I would like to mention 2 things that are being done by MOCOP, and we have one colleague as well from MOCOP present in this room as well. So it's completely run by the young people, and 2 of the campaigns that are called the Teach the Teacher and Teach the Parent campaigns, what they do is that they take climate education outside the classrooms and they take it to the rooms where it matters the most, to the dining rooms of their own homes, and also to talking to their teachers about how aware they are on climate education. And the mock-up also kind of the mock-up staff, like all of us young people, we also give resources and capacity building to other young people, so that it doesn't stop with just one young person talking about all of these, but it continues with more and more young people getting capacity to talk about climate education and how important it is. So I know that I should be keeping it short for Kathy's intervention. So those were two of the good practices that I wanted to mention, and I pass it on to Kathy, I guess.
Yeah, don't worry about the length of the intervention. That's very comprehensive and very informative as well. So thank you, Sarah, for that. So, yeah, she mentioned quite a wide range of topics, including, of course, the progress in the current negotiations under ACE. And, of course, I think we all share frustration sometimes about how slow the progress of negotiations can be. But to hear certain progress, especially when it comes to intergenerational justice, ACE as well, certainly wonderful news that many of us here at COP really would appreciate and further build upon. And you also emphasize, and I think this is a common theme that's emerging from all the panelists so far, is that ACE is not just about being in the classroom. It needs to spread out to, as you said, the dining rooms, in community level as well. And because we need to be able to relate the climate crisis, solutions and actions about it towards areas and subjects that people can relate to more. And certainly one of those is on the topic of human rights. And speaking of human rights, we talk about human rights and climate justice. For our final panelist for this session, I would like to introduce a member of the Youth Advisory Group for Environmental and Climate Justice under the YACAP of UNDP in Asia and the Pacific, Kathy Lee. So you have the floor.
Thank you so much. And hi, everyone. As mentioned, that we are part of this advisory group exploring, how young people can contribute and showcase other young people's leadership in climate justice and human rights within the Asia Pacific region. But my background is actually in multilateral processes and focusing on UNFCCC. And so I think, the folks have mentioned great points about ACE, whether it's at a regional level or national level or on the ground implementation. But I think bringing things back a little bit to multilateral processes, I think we have a really great opportunity here to explore linkages between the ACE decision text we have and other processes under the convention. And I think ACE is definitely a great opportunity we can use to make progress in those other processes on youth engagement, on gender mainstreaming, on society stakeholder engagement. And an example is last year in Glasgow, we received the COP decision to give Yango the first seat at the constituted body. And I've lost count how many years I've worked on it, not that many years. But we have been working on it for years to get this seat. And one of the COP decisions that really helped to convince all the parties was the ACE decision text in the past, that really showcasing that there has been COP decisions highlighting the importance of furthering youth engagement. And of course, there's also the Gender Action Plan, which also highlights the importance of gender, and also the LSIP platform, which is another constituted body really also highlighting the importance of indigenous people, which is why we managed to get these 3 seats especially for Yangon and the gender constituency as their first seats within the convention. So just want to highlight, how valuable and how meaningful ACE decision can be even within the UNFCCC processes. And then I think going back to regional, national level about implementation, I think there's been so much discussion about implementing NDCs and linking NDCs with national adaptation plans, with technology needs assessment. I think it's really, and also technical assistance. I just want to, I think it would be so interesting to see how ACE and how youth engagement can be further included as indicators and can be listed as part of the national plans as implementation, which I think it's great to see that. I think last year, because of the, was it last year or the year before last? Last year, yeah, because of the review, felt like ages ago, that, the ACE focal points first, the national focal points got together and knew each other. I think that was such a great start because during that gathering, I heard many of the national focal points said, oh, we actually didn't know that, who else are national focal points. Or I think a few of them were like, oh, I didn't know I'm a national focal point. So I think it's great that there was a start, and then hopefully there were more collaboration, and then hopefully there will be even more going forward. So I think at a national level, collaborations between the national focal points are really critical, and also collaborating with other, the national designated entities on technology, the national designated authorities, and the focal points to the financial mechanism operating entities. I think it's truly meaningful if these focal points within the country can collaborate with each other, and also for ACE national focal points to collaborate with other countries' focal points. And of course, at a multilateral level, to also explore, and I think we will be counting on all of you to make sure that it's not just about the ACE negotiations. Of course, it's super great to see. ACE is always probably the most popular topic for young people, and I always, and I know that for Yangon's working group, it always gets exploded because there's just too many people wanting to join, and they're limited place on WhatsApp. But I think it's really important to see that there's so much attention within ACE negotiations, but also great to see that there are more linkages between ACE negotiations and other negotiations in terms of how we can use ACE decisions to keep pushing things forward in other spaces as well.
Hello. Okay. So thank you very much, Kathy, for your intervention as well. So we noticed that among the panelists, there are some certainly common messages that need to be highlighted. The first one that was told by Sahir and Kathy, and I've observed them under Young Ono for a couple of years now, is that these outcomes that the youth have really fought for years, and we're finally seeing some semblance of results, and the hope is that we're able to build up on it, especially regarding action for climate empowerment, and as well as, of course, integrating human rights as much as possible. And of course, the second, it was brought up by Kathy and of course Ferida, is on the need for strengthening collaborations across the network of ACE, especially when it comes to the national focal points, and even across all the other stakeholders involved for education, training, as this will really go a long way towards long-term scaling up solutions for adaptation, mitigation, even climate justice in so many ways, especially in the Asia-Pacific region. All right, so I would like to thank our panelists. Very insightful and wonderful interventions. And we now have a couple of minutes to open the floor to our audience for any questions or clarifications you would have to our panelists. So, we would like to open the floor now for a couple of minutes of questions from the audience. Just feel free to raise your hand and ask your question. Sure.
Okay, I'm really happy to see that you all know everything about ACE and you don't have any questions. This really proves that, you recognize how important it is for your own rights, because ACE is one of the agenda items that really specify and give room to the rights of the civil society. So it's not only important for example, us for young people, but it's also important for every single member of the civil society, because it defines our rights of participation. So, I mean, super glad to see that everyone is on one page, everyone is good about those rights, but some of the things that I can definitely identify maybe as good reads, for example, is that ACE defines really comprehensively the elements of climate justice and human rights in terms of children and young people. If you are an entity or a party that supports, that wants to support more, for example, children and youth voices into negotiation rooms, not only at ACE, for example, but also just as Katie mentioned, it's a very interlinked, it has a lot of interlinkages with other negotiative agenda items. Please read that recent document. Please make sure it's there with long timelines. And we all need to work together to make sure that implementation is delivered during these timelines and, well, hopefully before as well. So feel free to read that document and make sure that you are taking the advocacy of children and young people forward when you leave this room. Thank you.
So we have a question from the audience. Actually, there are two questions. Let's pass over the microphone.
Hi, everyone. Hi, my name is Victor from the Raoul Wallenberg Institute. I have just a brief question because amongst us, we may have ACE focal points sitting, listening in. And I guess my question is targeted to Kunferda. What would you like to say to the other ACE focal points who are around in this venue? And how do you think you can work more closely together with them? And what do you think you can achieve? So 2 questions there.
I just would like to say briefly, I just would like to say briefly that as a ACE focal point, myself, we're going to do more. And I'm sure there are lots of, a lot of organizations in Thailand would like to do more either. So, and I hope that in other countries, going to be the same. And I'm sure that at least all of us have the same mind, have the same heart, that would like to do more in the future. That's why I come here, and I think it's a good place, and a good place for connection. And I don't want to just go back without anything, right? Since we already meet here, why not? Collaboration, and then we just gonna together. I think it's gonna have a bigger successful in the future. That's what I would like to say. Thank you.
Oh, okay. We have one more question.
Hi everybody, my name is Omo, O-M-O. I'm come from Thailand. I'm a youth delegate. Youth delegate from that that Kun Fera mentioned before. I have some question for the ACE. If you can pick up one topic, only one topic, or maybe 3 topics, that is the most important that you would like to drive, or now the ACE already currently driving the most important topic. What is that topic and why that you choose that topic? The most important topic that the ACE driving currently, yes.
So
I will start first because I think this is the ongoing issue even at this COP27. It is participation, and we cannot only say participation. I really want to reiterate the effective, meaningful participation of all stakeholders. We have to remove all of the barriers. I think all the youth delegates know well how struggle they are to be here. That is the barrier to participate in this COP, and it's very surprising because I spend most of the time in the negotiation rooms, but when I walk here, a lot of brilliant ideas and solutions happen here in the pavilion, but not in the negotiation rooms where the parties are debating about the text and adoption. How can we bring all of these ideas to that room? That is what I am thinking now. So I would really love to see meaningful and effective participation.
Do we have time for that? Oh, okay. Yeah. So for me, the most important, the most crucial element of ACE that we should be pushing forward for is definitely awareness. I mean, right to participation is of course topmost. Everybody should be having equal right of participation, right? But after that, people should be having that knowledge why they should participate. I think that for me, this is the most important element. And I think that students all around the world, the student movements all around the world are also pushing forward a lot for this, because the right to participation should be discussed outside the rooms where there is a standardized environment, right? Where everyone is equal, where the indigenous children and young people can also participate equally and know about their rights equally, right? So I think that that is the most important, most crucial element for me would be to learn about, like, it is climate education. It is integrating education into curricula, but you know, in a way that every single person has an equal right on the knowledge that they are attaining. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I have to go for participation. One that, like Ramchan mentioned, that there's so many challenges, logistical challenges, hotel challenges, and prices challenges, and the challenges with the map. About young people to participate at this COP, right? And also, I think, also about really meaningful participation of young people within UNFCCC processes. And some processes, for example, well, let's not raise examples. Some processes within the convention is not even open to observers, not only young people, but also gender, indigenous peoples, academia, and others. That I think these are obviously barriers. If you're not allowed to observe what's happening, if you don't know what's happening, how can you contribute and make progress and support parties, and also to be the kind of the watcher of you know, making sure that parties are on the right track and keeping the momentum and ambition high. So I definitely think participation is absolutely key, and I think that's the thing that I probably love the most about ACE. But of course, that all the 6 elements and pillars are interlinked and closely relevant.
From Thailand.
Okay. So, Rosa, would you like to have a quick response to the question? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. So yeah, for me, it's definitely education and public awareness, and I think those two are kind of very much interlinked, because, well, for education, that I think is the start of everything, and also public awareness. And why I kind of combine these two together is because, you know, like, I think we can all agree, like, education, it needs to go beyond the classroom, because not everybody has access to those classrooms, and not everybody has the privilege of, let's say, digital technology. So for those who doesn't go to school, but they have access to digital platforms, they can learn for themselves. And we can all agree that not everybody has this access. And for, you know, as we can also all agree that climate action needs participation of all stakeholders. It cannot just be for those who are privileged. So that is why, like, the education and public awareness is something that really needs to be instilled first, because this it will be like the match that, you know, that kind of lights up our like just our communities to really change their behavior, and to kind of, you know, want to learn more about how to change their behavior, and what to do and what not to do, who to support, who to vote. You know, that is where the beginning, and that's where it all needs to start. So for me, yeah, education and public awareness, those are the two primary elements that we need to push forward. Thank you so much, moderator.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for your responses to the question. Maybe we have time for just one more quick question from the audience. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Victor, for inviting us here. So my name is Wisnu from Indonesia, and maybe I just concern only one issue. It is education, because I think we think that education is very important to make understand the issues of climate change, especially for the youth. So especially, I want to talk about the formal education. So we have a problem to put this issue, the climate change issue, into the curricula, especially of the basic education. So far we already discussed it with the Ministry of Education and Culture in our country, and also discussed with some teachers how to put this issue in the curricula. But so far it's very hard because in our curricula is very, very full. So that's very difficult for the students if we put more issues in the curricula. So I just wanted to ask your views in this issue and how to make it happen. Or maybe our colleagues from Thailand, maybe if you have experience of this issue, maybe you can share with us. Thank you very much.
Just a quick response, maybe.
Thank you for running around. You okay? Okay. Thank you very much. And for the education in Thailand, we have already integrated in curricula in several subjects. And I think we already did with us from the kindergarten until higher education for now. But it's not complete. It's still on process. So I think it's a lot of detail. We also working with the Ministry of Education. Maybe we might have to discuss more in detail later on, but it is the way. I understand that in curricula is a lot of subject. That's what the teacher said, and also the Ministry of Education. But there are still some kind of activity outside the classroom. There is another part of it that helped a lot in Thailand. Thank you very much. But I would like to discuss more about this issue, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you again, Ferda, for your response. And unfortunately, we are already out of time for this session, but we are not yet out of time for meaningful climate action. So thank you, by the way, to Ferda, Ramchat, Sahir, Kathy, and Rosa for your time today and serving as panelists for this wonderful session on putting human rights at the heart of climate action for climate empowerment. So this has been John Leo Algo from Action Klima Pilipinas, your moderator for this session. Thank you for coming and have a wonderful day.